Okay. Appreciate the opportunity to be back here again. I see the name Mordechai Tzvi ben Chanarus. I also want to dedicate this year, my grandmother, my father's, who's here tonight, appreciate it. My grandmother's yard site is on Shabbos. Shpinza Bas Avram Yitzchak. Shamash have an aliyah. Continue to have an aliyah. Amen. Thank you. So I was flipping through my notes in preparation for tonight, notes from many years ago, and I saw a vart. I wrote there that I heard it on the telephone from Rabbi Avram Chaim Foyer, who was my Rav. He was here in Forshay for many, many years. And I called him up. Called him up. He actually Yeshav Refuah Shalem also from Chaim ben Rechel. So I called him up to share with him the vart that I heard from him. And I had written in the thing that I had written, I forgot which Rebbe I wrote, but I wrote a question mark on top. He said, no, it's from the Scheiner Rebbe. He said, I remember hearing it from him in Yeshiva Spring Valley. It was a big Maimid, and he spoke over there. But anyway, this was the vart that he said. I wanted to share about a certain theme, but before my Rabbi Wein Zechus would say that every rabbi likes to say a few words before he speaks. So before I get to my main topic, I want to just share a couple of brief thoughts from the beginning of the parsha. One of them is this vart from Rabbi Foyer that I heard from him. The pasuk says that Avraham Avinu was sitting outside Hu Yoshev Pesach HaOel. He was sitting by the doorway of the tent, Ki Chom Hayom. Ki Chom Hayom, which literally means like the sun of the day, like the heat of the day. Now that's funny. Why would it say Ki Chom Hayom instead of Bichom Hayom? Bichom Hayom, in the heat of the day. Why would it say Ki Chom Hayom, like the heat of the day? So he said from the Scheiner Rebbe, that the sun is a symbol of consistency. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Noach after the Mabul, Od kol yimei haaretz v'zera v'kotzer v'kor v'chom lo yishbosu, that it will never stop. It talks about the sun, the weathers, the seasons that will always be. So the sun is a symbol of consistency. It's there. Sometimes we don't see it because of the clouds, but it's always there. On Shlishi Limilaso, third day after the Bris Milah, when Avraham Avinu at that age, an advanced age, after an advanced procedure, should have been relaxing, especially in that heat. But he wanted to chesed, he wouldn't let it go. So that's Kichom Hayom. He was like the heat of the day, just like the heat of the day, just like the sun is always there. That was Avraham Avinu, the consistency. I was thinking, this is in my notes from, I was thinking 20 years ago, when he said this, that maybe that's what we sing in Baruch Kalelyon on Shabbos morning. Ashrei kol chochel tashlumei kefel, praiseworthy are those who wait for the double reward. And we end off nachlo menucha, an inheritance and the restfulness, kashemesh lo zarcha, like the sun shines on a person. That who is zoche? Maybe that the Paitan is saying, who is zoche to the nachlo menucha, to the inheritance, to that resting of Shabbos, resting meaning the spiritual rest of Shabbos. If one waits for it, kashemesh, like the sun, with consistency, that a person lives their life always waiting and yearning for Shabbos. Maybe that's part of the idea also based on this same thought. And when I said this Rabbi Foyer this week, so he told me, the Meshech Chochmah says, it's interesting, in Parshas Bereshis, when the Torah talks about the sun, it calls it Hamor HaGodol. The first time, it doesn't call it Shamish, or Shemesh, what we call it, Shemesh. The first time that word appears is in last week's Parsha, by the Bris Mein Absar. Hashemesh, Ba'a. It's actually Ma'akev, or Ma'akev. When the Valkyrie, there are a few in Chumash Bereshis. Sometimes it's Ba'a, sometimes it's Ba'a, and it's Ma'akev, because one means in the past, and one means in the present, one means in the past. Anyways, but it says Hashemesh Ba. So there it says the sun. So the Meshech Chochmah says because the sun is such an incredible being, it's so powerful that it looks like its own entity. In fact, they served it as an avodah zarah. That was the original avodah zarah, the first thing. My Foyer said to me, this classic way, he said, if Chas v'Shalom I had to serve avodah zarah, he said, I wouldn't serve a Buddha. I wouldn't worship diamonds or whatever. I would worship the sun. It's a powerful thing, and it's consistent. That's right. He said, so Avraham Avinu, though, by the Bris Mein Absarim, Avraham Avinu, who lived his life calling out b'Shem Hashem, he said, when Avraham Avinu, by the Bris Mein Absarim, that's when the sun could be called Shemesh, because then it was clear to the world that it was Shamish. It was there to serve, and it wasn't there for its own. So I wanted to share that this week, because I spoke to Rabbi Foyer this week. I should continue to have Refuah Shalema, Be'ezer Hashem. Two other quick thoughts. Vayera Hashem be'elonei Mamre, in this place called the Plains of Mamre. The Plains of Mamre. So Rashi says, what's this place called the Plains of Mamre? He says, Hu she'nosen lo eitza al amilo. Avraham Avinu, apparently Chazal tell us that he had his three inner close friends, Oner, Eshkol, and Mamre. He asked all three of them, what they thought, whether we should, seemingly, we'll get to in a second, he asked them Eitzah about the Bris Milah, and Honor and Eshkol said no, and Mamre said yes. So therefore it's called Elone Mamre, because Mamre told him to go ahead with it. The question is, the question is that possible that Avram really asked? Did he say, should I do the Bris Milah? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is Avram Avinu, the champion.
After Hashem told him.
Yes, that's the question that all the Rishonim are busy with. How is it possible Avram Avinu, the champion of monotheism, the champion of listening to the Dvar Hashem, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, do Bris Milah, and he says, well, you think I should do it? You think I should listen to Hashem? Can't be. So there are many ideas that are said, beautiful ideas. I just want to share a couple. The Das Kenim says, and his words are, Chas v'sholom sheyishal eitzah im yimol im lav. Chas v'sholom, to think that Avraham Avinu, that he was asking whether we should listen or not. So first he says, the question that he asked him was, should I do it in public? Should I do it in public, or should I publicize, I don't know if you do the Bris Milah in public, but should I publicize that I'm doing a Bris Milah? The people should know. Maybe I should keep it quiet. And Honor and Eshkol said, yes, keep it quiet. And Mamre said, no, you have to be fearsome. This is what I'm doing.
Not that should I do
right,
it. Should I publicize
right, correct. That's the first shot that Das Kenim says. The second shot that Das Kenim says, which is a great lesson, is Avram Avinu was asking him, what should I do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded him, so everybody in his family, everyone has to have a Bris Milah. So what should I do if there are people that don't want to do it? So Honor and Eshkol said, I don't know. What should you do? Mamre said, you do it first, says the Das Kenim. You go ahead and do it first. That's leadership. By example. If you do it first, then everyone will follow. It's also a beautiful idea from the Das Kenim. But the Cheskuni says, I never heard this before, this year was the first time I saw it, that he says, Avram Avinu, of course, was not asking their advice. He actually was testing them. I once I read a cute little story about a fellow who was in an art museum. One of these fancy, I don't know names of all these, fancy, expensive art things. And forgive my ignorance. And he's standing there looking at them, and he's just grumbling, goes from one to the next. And he goes over to the director, and he says, these are junk. These are garbage. My 4-year-old can draw better drawings than this. So the director starts laughing, and he says, look, my friend, these paintings are not on a question over here. They already have been determined by many great and professional and people who know what they're talking about, that these are from the best paintings in the world. You're the one that's on that's up for debate right now. But you're saying that they're stupid. It shows that you're stupid. You don't know anything. It's not because the paintings aren't good. It's because you don't know anything about art. So the Cheskuni says that Avram Avinu was not asking whether he should do the Bris Milah. There was no question that Avram Avinu was going to go ahead with the Bris Milah. Avram Avinu wanted to see who is loyal over here. Who are my real friends? So he asked Honor and Eshkol, and they said, not so sure. Avram said, Deh. He said, Mamre says, Avram, you should do it. Oh, that's my guy. Avram Avinu had no intention of not doing it. He just wanted to know who was loyal together with him. Okay. I wanted to share for the rest of the year, a theme that, interestingly, goes through a lot of the Parsha. Very powerful, important idea. So it comes up in a few different places. First of all, we'll ask a few questions, and then we'll get back to the idea at the end. The beginning of the Parsha, everybody knows Avraham Avinu was sitting outside in the blazing hot sun. Kadosh Baruch Hu was motzi chamo min atika, whatever that means. He took the sun out of its casing, and there was no protection, no ozone. It was just blazingly hot. And Avram was bitzar. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends him 3 anoshim, which are really malachim, of course. And the question is, if Avram is bitzar and HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to help him out, why don't you just put the sun back in its case and then make it, regular hot, and then guests will come inevitably, and Avram Avinu can serve them. What's his business? He has to send malachim. He keeps the heat. It's still blazingly hot, but he sends these 3 anoshim.
The heat was an aspect of refuah, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if it had to be that hot. It says that it seems to be that it was well above and beyond.
This also shows Avram's above and beyond. When it's nice.
Wait, 1 second. Then you have to turn the video around. You're going to have to give the shir. Hold on. No. I'm saying don't give away the No, you said good.
It's easy. It's very nice. That's the big deal.
There we go. That's my whole shir. Don't give it away.
Another drink.
Later on, Avram Avinu davens for Staum. Kadosh Baruch Hu tells him, it's possible. I'm not going to tell Avram Asher Hani Yoseh. And he tells Avram he's going to destroy Sodom. And Avram Avinu goes to bat against these people who are his like utter nemesis. I mean, like these are the people that stand against everything Avram Avinu stands for. And he starts bargaining with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I told my students to keep them involved. I said, ask at your Shabbos table this week, where does football come up in the Parsha? 50, 45, 40, 30, 20, 10. Those who don't know about football not going to know what I'm talking about, but okay. So, Avram Avinu.
I don't watch sports. I'm not from that kufa. Sorry.
Not bad. So Avram Avinu.
Even he doesn't know. Yeah.
So Avram Avinu goes to bat for Sodom and he keeps bargaining with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's amazing. Last week's parsha, the Bris Bein Absarim, Kadosh Baruch Hu tells him, we quoted in the Haggadah, you should know your children are going to be strangers in a strange land, and they're going to be enslaved, and it's going to be difficult, they're going to be afflicted for 400 years. Avram Avinu doesn't say a word. Why does it say the HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Maybe 390, maybe 380, maybe if they're tzaddikim can only be there for 200 years, 100 years, maybe it shouldn't be so bad. Nothing. Avram Avinu doesn't say one word. He just accepts it. Why doesn't he? He goes to bat for Sodom and he doesn't go to bat for his own children. What's the pshat? Later in the parsha, Sarah Imenu gives birth to Yitzchak, an incredible event, above nature, of course. Chazal say not only because she couldn't have children, she didn't have the physical capability to have a child in the first place. She was an islandess. She wasn't just an akara. She didn't have a womb. The whole thing was beyond. So Sarah, the pasuk is Vatomer Sarah tzchok asali Elokim. We learned this on Rosh Hashanah. There's a Kedushas Rosh Hashanah in this week's Parsha because both days of Rosh Hashanah is the Kriyas HaTorah from Parshas Vayera. So Vatomer Sarah tzchok asali Elokim. Kol Hashamei tzachakli, which literally means Hashem made me a laughter. Anybody who hears will laugh for me. So Rashi says it's a lashon of simcha. Anybody who hears will be happy for me. But it's interesting. He uses the lashon of tzchok. Is there another meaning besides, of course, what Rashi says? And finally, one last question. At the Akedah, the epic Akedah, which we're still nurturing, yearning, drawing from the schusim of the Akedah, as we say every day, and of course in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. V'hinei ayel acher nechas b'svach b'karnav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, Avram, al tishlach etcha lanar. And then he turns and there's an ayel, there's a ram that's caught in the thicket by its horns, and Avram Avinu takes that and brings that as a korban. And Meir Shapiro, Zechar Tzaddik Livracha, asks, how did Avram Avinu know that wasn't Maisa Satan? How did he know that ayel was really that he was meant to bring it? It was so pashut to him that he brought it right away without even thinking twice about it. So these are the four questions for tonight. There was a study done in March 2012, Daniel Oppenheimer. Students were shown two different writings, two different papers. One of them, the font was very unclear. The other one was a very clear font. And I don't know how they did the study, but they studied afterwards who remembered it better. And the results were counterintuitive. Because those who had the paper that had a very fuzzy font remembered it, I think 14%, whatever the number was, they remembered it better than those who had the clear font. Don't try that if you're trying to sell a book. But the reason is because they had to work harder, they had to squint, they had to put more effort in. That little bit more effort had more staying power. It helped them to remember it much better later. We know, the Welt says, easy come is easy go. In the yeshivas, everybody knows in the yeshiva world, so Art Scroll is an incredible thing, and it's revolutionized in Klal Yisrael and Liman Torah, and it's unbelievable. I tell my students sometimes, I remember walking with coming into shul with my father. I have this memory when I'm 13 years old, and they're having a conversation about the Art Scroll Mishnayos, how amazing it was. And I think my father said to someone else, he said, Art Scroll is putting out a Gemara soon. And he said, no way. I said, yeah, I'll tell you, they're putting out a Gemara. This must have been 1992, 1993, I think, around. But you would think it was in the 1800s because they did it so fast. They're done with Bavli, they're done with Yerushalmi, it's incredible. But in the yeshiva world, it's the Rabbeim try to discourage it. Why? Because the yeshiva bacher has more time and more ability, and this is the only time in your life you'll have that time and ability. You have to work. You have to work on the learning. And the more effort a person puts into it, the more it stays with a person. If a person takes easy and they just relax and, so easy come, easy go. That's the way it is with everything in life. The Pasuk, the Melech says, Yegia kapecha kisochel. The toil of your hands, when you will eat it, ashrecha v'tovlach. Yegia kapecha. The effort, when you put in the toil, when a person works hard, ashrecha v'tovlach. You'll have from it. It'll stay with you. The Talmud Rebbe said over a story that he heard from the Pnei Menachem. He said there was a boy who was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, as the expression goes. Tremendous amount of money, and he always had exactly what he needed. He was getting older. His father was getting a little nervous from him. Spoiled kid. So the father sent him off. He said, no more. No, every day he gave him, he had a wallet. Every day he would put money in the wallet. He said, no more putting money in the wallet. He said, I'm sending you off. You go make some money. Come back at the end of the day, and I want you to bring me a few gold coins. So the kid was not used to working at all. He was having a good time. And he was running around. At the end of the day, he goes into his mother. Mom, I need a few gold coins. I have to go into Tati, So she gives him. Goes into the father. He gives him a few gold coins or dollar bills, whatever it was, a few bills. Father takes it, chucks it into the fire behind him, throws it into the fire. Kid thinks to himself, that's weird. All right? Same thing happens the next day. Again, he plays around, messes around the whole day. Comes to the mother at the end of the day. I have to, she gives it. And it happens every day for a while. Finally, one day, he comes to her at the end of the day, and she says, this is it, I got no more. Tomorrow, I don't have anything else to give you. So the next day, he knows he's in big trouble. So he runs around and he starts trying to, he doesn't know anything about making money. People have rachmanis to give him a little here, a little there. By the end of the day, he comes up with just a little bit and he's exhausted. And he comes home and he hands it to his father. His father takes it, throws it into the fire. The kid's, no, Dad, no! And he jumps into the fire and grabs it out. And the father says, now I know that you worked for that money. Because every day when you had it easy, I knew you weren't working for it. Somehow that money came easy. So I threw it into the fire. I don't want you to have that money. But now because you worked for it, you weren't letting it get away so fast. When a person works for something, then it stays. I heard a story that when Rabbi Lopian came to speak in Lakewood, I guess in the early years, by Rabbi and it was a very hot day in the yeshiva. It was before air conditioning. And Rabbi was an old man. And the Baron turned to him and he said to him, maybe, can I get you a drink of water? He was in the middle of speaking. And Rabbi, without, he said, boss, Odom la'omo yulod. He said, a person is born to toil. Just because I'm thirsty, I'm hot, whatever. He said, Rabbi kept speaking. He didn't realize, and he turned. He saw Rabbi Aaron had his head down on the stender. And the way I heard the story was they saw like a little bit of puddle. Like he was crying a lot. And Rabbi got very nervous. And he said, Rosh Yeshiva, what did I say? He said, you said, Adam la'omel yulot. He said, learning comes to me easy. Baron was brilliant. He said, I don't know what it means, real amelus. He was crying. That he doesn't have the ability to do real amelus. Rav Meir Shapiro, getting back to the question at the end of the parsha, how did Avraham Avinu know that this was real? That this was from Hashem and it wasn't Ma'aseh Satan? So in the Imrei Das, which is a collection of Rav Meir Shapiro's Torah, so it says that when he became Rav of Lublin, so he asked whoever the heads of the community were, was there any opposition, when they hired him to be the Rav, was there any opposition to my becoming the Rav? And they said, yes, there was some. Probably he was overwhelmingly chosen, but yes, there was some. He said, okay, good. He said, because if there was no opposition, he said, then I have to be nervous. Ma'aseh Satan. The Satan doesn't let things go easy. And Rav Meir Shapiro said, I'll bring you a raya. He said, how did Avraham Avinu this question? He said, because it was caught in the thicket. If it was Ma'aseh Satan, he said, Avraham Avinu would have turned around and there it would have been, ready to go. But because he had to go and pull it out of the thicket and he had to unhatch it from there.
He had to work for it.
He had to work for it, even somewhat. He said he knew it wasn't Ma'aseh Satan. Because that's always, the Satan makes things easy for us. The Satan is always going for the path of least resistance. He always wants things to be as easy as possible.
You could also ask, where did it come from? It could have been next to the neighbor's ram, whatever, right? You could use a Shabbos Aveda, right? Who says it was an animal that...
Okay.
It's the answer, though. It wasn't there when he came. It was an empty field. There's nothing there.
There was nothing there. It was Har Sinai. I'm saying there was. I mean, not Har Sinai. Har Moriah. It was Hefker.
When he went with the Yitzchak, he didn't see it. So obviously, when it came, he knew it came from Hashem.
Okay, could be. The Kedushas Levi says, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu not put the sun back in its case and not let it be so hot? And he says, because Avraham Avinu wanted to do chesed on the highest level. That was part of it. He didn't want to just do chesed when it's easy. It's chesed when it's easy. Anybody can do chesed when it's easy. When it's hard, when it's a challenge, when it's a struggle, when you have to sweat, when he wasn't feeling well. That's what Avraham Avinu wanted. I heard a story from a close Talmud of Rav Doron Gersher, Shiva here in Beis Medrash Elyon. So a close Talmud of his told me, Beis Medrash Elyon, here in Monsey. So he came into a house, he came into a parlor meeting. They had a parlor meeting for the yeshiva. You know, they usually do it in a nice house. And Rav Don was already an older man, and it was the middle of the winter, and it was muddy, and he had boots on. And he came into the house, and it was a very nice carpet in the living room. And he bends down, and he starts pulling off his rubbers. And the Baal Habayis comes running over. He says, "Nay, Rosh Yeshiva, it's good." And Rav Don said to him, "I'm not only taking it off because whether you want me to or not. I'm also taking it off. I don't want to be that guy who walks across somebody's beautiful living room and doesn't care. For me also, I don't want to be that type of person." Well, that's the way God looks at something. But by Avraham Avinu, it's not just for you. I want to go beyond myself. I want to do chesed. I want to go beyond myself. So Avraham Avinu didn't want that Kadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu understood. Avraham Avinu wouldn't want that he just puts the sun back in and then regular guests come. He wanted to be able to do it particularly when it was difficult, when it was a challenge. I told, forgive me, those who don't know anything about sports, but I think it's a fair point. No, it could be, I'm sure other people are also going, what are you saying? But I'm a Rabbi in a high school, but I told my students, that's the only reason I follow. I don't really care for myself, just I have to know what's going on. But this year, the Dodgers won the World Series.
What's that?
Yes. It was, I mean, for anyone who's not a Dodgers fan, which is most of the world, it's pretty painful. But for Dodgers fans, it was an incredible victory because it was such a hard battle. It went to the final game, went to Game 7, and one of the games went to, I think, 18 innings, and the Dodgers won. And then in the Game 6, they came back at the very end. And in Game 7, in the 9th inning with 1 out, they were losing. But the bottom, and then they won in extra innings. The fact that it was so difficult, that's the hano, that's the excitement, that's part of the gishmak. You know, so lahavdil, that's the same thing of Shmuel Birnbaum. He says this. He doesn't say about the Yankees. He doesn't say about the Dodgers. But I will tell you. Someone told me that Shmuel Birnbaum one time saw on the back of, for those who remember, back when cereal boxes used to have athletes eating them. So he said, someone said that Shmuel Birnbaum said he had 3 kashas. I don't know if I remember all 3. He had 3 kashas on it. He saw it one morning. He said, I imagine it was a man, if you wouldn't have seen it. But he said, I have 3 kashas. Number 1, he said his knowledge base is in sports. What does he know about cereal? He said number 2, he likes it. So who said I'm gonna like it? I forgot what the 3rd kasha was. It wasn't 3 kashas.
Oh, you said it's part of a complete breakfast, not a full.
I don't know. Another friend of mine told me, because you see with their gadol, like the way they think. Some friend of mine told me he was driving a Reuven Feinstein.
MS, it's the thing of MS.
No, but also like your Gemara trains you how to think. He told me he was driving a Reuven Feinstein, and there was a sign, there was a billboard. A billboard, I said this once. There was a billboard that said, let's say, I don't know, the 2000 Lexus, the best ever.
The best ever.
So Rav Reuven said to him, he says, what does that billboard mean? Does it mean the 2000 Lexus is the best, that the 2000 Lexus is the best Lexus ever? Or does it mean that the Lexus is the best car ever? Nafkamino, if I have a 1999 Lexus. If I have a 1999 Lexus, so if the 2000 Lexus is the best Lexus ever, I have to get a new car. But if the Lexus, I already have a Lexus, so good. My friend told me, he said, Rosh Yeshiva, I don't know. But it tells you the way a gadol thinks.
Say from Chaim, they say somebody asks Chaim if I'm allowed Shabbos to throw in the ball.
A basketball.
Basketball.
Yeah.
And Chaim said, I don't understand, why can't you do it before Shabbos?
Yeah, it's better to put. Right, the nice was they say, Rav Chaim said, what does it mean basketball? They said you have to get the ball in the basket. He said, better before Shabbos. Put it to before Shabbos.
About the story with the Lexus, the way I heard it was that he said that this is mamash against emes. Who says that I think it's the best? Just because you said it, I think it is.
Okay, so good.
That's what I heard. That's another.
So Rav Shmuel does say a mashal. He says about a person who loves mountain climbing. Because imagine you tell the guy, look, come today, I have a helicopter. I'm going to take you to the top. He's not going to be happy with that. The whole vert is the struggle, is the pushing myself against it to have the endurance to be able to climb the mountain. That's where the feeling of geshmak is. That's where a person feels that they've accomplished. That was the nisayon of Avraham Avinu constantly, ready to give up everything for Hashem. Why does Avraham Avinu not daven for Klal Yisrael to bris mein absarim? So I saw from Rabbi Weinfeld in his new sefer that came out of his collection of his drashas, Timely and Timeless, very good, beautiful. He said that Avraham Avinu understood. See, the people of Staum, they were Rishonim, they're not going anywhere. So it's a question of destroying them or not destroying them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Avraham Avinu, goes to bat for them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, maybe, But when it comes to Klal Yisrael, when it comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that Klal Yisrael is going to have to go through things in order to, Avraham Avinu understands that's the price. You can't go to the promised land. You can't become the chosen people unless you go through the travails before. So it didn't necessarily have to be as horrible as Mitzrayim was. Avodim ve'inu also means they'll be afflicted. It didn't have to be. No one said it meant that putting their children into the walls, that they'll get beaten to death. It didn't have to be that bad necessarily at that point. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said it's going to be hard. I don't even understand. It's going to be hard. That's what it is. That's the price to pay. If you want godless, yeah. In fact, and that's my next point. Where do we find that Avram is called Avram Avinu? Avram Avinu is never called that in the Torah. It's in the Mishmar in Pirkei Avos, in the 5th parak. Asara nisyonos nisnasa Avram Avinu v'amad b'kul. Avram Avinu was tested with 10 tests. Interesting, because if you count up all the Rishonim have different counts of the 10 tests. If you count them all the different ones up, it's like 13, 14, maybe 15, 16. That could be counted as tests, that different Mepharshim count as tests. Amazing what Avram Avinu went through. What's that?
10 categories, man.
No, it's what you count at. What are considered tests and what are not. Some people can. This fascinatingly, it's not my topic. Rabbi Yonah holds that the 10th test is not the Akedah. It's Misasara, next week's parsha, which is a little bit shocking. But also, that's its own shmuz. That's its own shmuz. But Reb Chaim Voloshin says that when does he become? That's when he became Avinu. When he withstood the tests. What does it mean to be a father? A father gives certain things to his children. It's in the genes. It's in the DNA. It becomes part of them. Avram Avinu instilled. People ask. Many people ask. Mepharshim ask. Avram Avinu, the Akedah was pretty impressive, but it was incredible. But still, how many Akedas did Klal Yisrael give over the years? They say that's the only reason that Klal Yisrael was able to. The only way Klal Yisrael was able to do that is because Avram Avinu had trailblazed, because he had given us that ability by his Mesiras Nefesh. So now everyone else who followed suit throughout the years, it was the koach of Avram Avinu. That's where he's called Avram Avinu. By the tests, when a person overcomes the challenges, that's when he becomes. That's what made him Avinu. I think this week, was just yesterday, 2 days ago, was the yahrzeit of Nosson Tzvi Finkel. There's a lot of yahrzeits now. Shach's yahrzeit is tonight, the Chazon Ish. Rachel Imenu, of course. So Nosson Tzvi Finkel was, he was such a legendary inspiration for Klal Yisrael. Anyone had the schus to meet him. I remember I didn't hear him speak too many times. One of the times I heard him speak, he was talking about how a person has to be besimcha about life. He said even if a person has yisurim, just to be alive. And if I remember correctly, he couldn't finish. There were certain times he couldn't talk. He was talking about the simcha of just being alive, no matter, even if a person, no matter what a person goes through, and he couldn't even finish the shmuz. But that's the way he lived. They say a Maisa that one time he got up at Achnasa Sefer Torah, and he couldn't talk. He wasn't able to speak that day. And he got up, or I don't even know if he got up, it was a mantle with the words Ma Hafti Sarasecha Kol Hayom V'Si Chasi on it. And shaking hand, he pointed Ma or Hafti, he pointed word to word with a big smile on his face, and that was his speech. Couldn't talk. But his inspiration, there's a picture, I have it on my wall. It speaks volumes. There's a picture of Nosson Tzvi lighting Chanukah licht, if anyone's seen it. And he has one hand with the candle, and his other hand is holding his hand, and his teeth are gritted, like this. That grit, that determination. It took the Mir Yeshiva from already a somewhat large yeshiva, but like more than doubled it, from 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. But he remembers the story that my friend said over 3 Sima Shasas ago about the person who came to Rav Nosson Tzvi. I didn't prepare it. It came to me now. I'm saying I remembered it, so I don't remember all the details. I'm sorry. But he came to me and he had a whole plan of how he was going to learn certain things. And Nosson Tzvi said, what about the rest of Shas? So he came back and he had another plan. He doubled it, whatever. So what's about the rest of Shas? The fellow was in his 70s, I think. So he finally came back with another plan, a 14-year plan, and Nosson Tzvi said, that's a plan. He said, Rabbi, I'm going to be 94 if I'm so. So he said, it's not possible. And Nosson Tzvi said, if you always remember, my friend's voice shook MetLife. He said, and I'm able to do what I do. Look at me! And the words "look at me" just like reverberated through the stadium. But that was the godless of Nosson Tzvi. It was because he suffered so much and he pushed himself so much that he became such an inspiration. You see Gedolim who were 30, 40 years older than him, who they had such covet for him because what he accomplished. It's an amazing thing. And I'll end off. There's a book. It's a lecture. It was by a fellow named Randy Posh. He passed away, and he was dying at the time that he gave. It's called The Last Lecture. It's quite inspiring. Makes you think a little bit. And it's from I probably mentioned this quote also because I think it's very powerful. Before he died, yeah. Well, he gave the speech before he died, yeah. But he said there a line. I remember in the book at one point he got pulled over. He said it was a beautiful day, and he had a convertible and the top was down, and he said it was a great day, and he got pulled over for a cop for speeding. He said, honestly, officer, I'm dying. I don't really care about the ticket, but but he said a line that's such a powerful line. He said, brick walls are there not to keep us out. Brick walls are there to show how badly we want something. Brick walls are there to stop other people who don't want it badly enough. And the question is, how badly do you want it? And that is the godless of Avraham Avinu. That is the godless. Our whole story, it's a godless. That's a story of Klal Yisrael. So many troubles, so many travails, so many vicissitudes, so many challenges. And, we're, loosening our ties a little bit this week. It's been a nerve-wracking week for Klal Yisrael. We don't know what's going to be. But we take nechama in the fact that we never know what's going to be. And sometimes we think we know what's going to be and we don't. To me, it's much more clear now than it was 5 years ago, even though it's a little scary, but somebody's pulling the strings up there. He knows exactly what he's doing. And it's just so clear. The fact that this fellow was elected, everybody went crazy. But it's unnerving. But we're the Bnei Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. And things are difficult. There's a line that I heard years ago when I was in Eretz Yisrael. I think Israeli soldiers sing it. I heard it comes from Rav Kook. Very beautiful words. Am hanetzach lo mefached miderech haruka. Am hanetzach, the eternal nation. Lo mefached, we're not afraid. Miderech haruka, from the long road. Klal Yisrael is on the long road. It's a long road. We want things now. We want things to be clear. Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't work by our schedules. He has his own kolo machshavosai machshavosechem, lo darkechem derachai. But we're the children of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. And Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov persevered, and their children will persevere. And Be'ezer Hashem will be zoche to great things together, to witness the great things that are coming. Be'ezer Hashem. And we'll be zoche within our own lives to overcome challenges and struggles to continue to become the great people that we are. Yashar Koyach.
Beautiful.